Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. India election campaign peaks as Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds rallies in Maharashtra and Goa. Mallikarjun Kharge and Priyanka Gandhi of the Congress Party campaign in Assam and Gujarat. Israel responds to Hamas's ceasefire proposal. An Egyptian delegation visits Israel for talks on hostage release. Gaza aid from Cyprus resumes. Iran to release crew of ship linked to Israel. 16 Indian nationals remain on board the ship that was seized in the Strait of Hormuz on the 13th of April. South Africa celebrates the 30th anniversary of Freedom Day, marking the country's first democratic election in 1994 that ended racial segregation. And India wins 4 golds and 1 silver at the Archery World Cup, sets a record for the highest number of gold medals in the compound event. All right, first up, let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. Campaigning for the third phase of India's parliamentary election gains momentum. The top leaders of major political parties are on the campaign trail to woo the voters. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed rallies in Maharashtra and Goa, whereas Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge campaigned in Assam, and another Congress leader, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, held a rally in Gujarat. Raghav Kumar Jha reports.
With the election campaigning at its peak, political heavyweights are crisscrossing the country, holding rallies, roadshows and press conferences to propagate the agenda of the respective political parties. Prime Minister and senior BJP leader Narendra Modi held public rallies in Maharashtra and Goa. In his address at Kolhapur city in Maharashtra, Prime Minister Narendra Modi alleged Congress of doing anti-national and hate politics for gaining power and said that it has got exposed now.
कांग्रेस और इंडी अलायंस ने देश विरोधी और नफरत की राजनीति के 2 सेल्फ गोल कर लिए हैं और इसलिए ये पक्का हो गया है फिर एक बार
Union Home Minister and senior BJP leader Amit Shah was in the western state of Gujarat. Addressing a public rally at Porbandar, Amit Shah credited Prime Minister Narendra Modi for historic decisions, including abrogation of Article 370, the construction of Ram Temple, and the successful tackling of the menace of terrorism and Naxalism in the country. He also addressed rallies in Bharuch and Panchmahal. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge interacted with media persons in Assam's capital Guwahati and said that his party would fulfill all the promises of its manifesto. Addressing a rally in Barpeta, he referred to the Green Revolution in India and said thanks to Congress policies, today India is self-dependent in food production.
इस देश में खाने के लिए गेहूं नहीं मिलता था, चावल नहीं मिलता था। अमेरिका से लाकर लोगों को अन्न देते थे, खिलाते थे। ऐसे देश में आज चावल, गेहूं, पल्सेस इतना पैदावार हो रहा है जिससे लोग आज पेट भर के थोड़ा खाना खा रहे हैं। ये कांग्रेस की देन है।
Congress's National General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra wooed the voters in Valsad district of Gujarat, where she promised to provide employment to 3 million unemployed youths in the country and ensure 100 days of guaranteed employment in urban areas similar to Manrega in rural areas. Other opposition parties are also busy in hectic campaigning. YSRCP chief and Andhra Pradesh CM YS Jagan Mohan Reddy launched party's poll manifesto in Vijayawada, whereas Delhi CM Arvind Kejriwal's wife Sunita Kejriwal held a roadshow in Kondli area of East Delhi. Meanwhile, several members of the Delhi Sikh Gurdwara Management Committee joined the Bharatiya Janata Party on Saturday. Raghav Kumar Jha reporting for DD India.
All right, joining me from Madhya Pradesh is Aditya Srivastav, and Jessica Taneja is in Goa. Aditya, to you first. Former Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan is contesting from Vidisha. Now, he is one of the 144 candidates in the fray. How's the BJP's campaign coming along in the state?
See, Ramesh, Shivraj Singh Chauhan is a big face of Bharatiya Janata Party. Bharatiya Janata Party knows his caliber. Bharatiya Janata knows his aura in Madhya Pradesh. Although Shivraj Singh Chauhan is contesting an election from Vidisha, but he's not centric in Vidisha. He is doing a campaigning across the state. Today he was in Khategaon, but tomorrow he will be take public rallies in Guna, Gwalior, Morena, Chambal region. But not only Shivraj Singh Chauhan, most of the top leadership of the Bharatiya Janata Party as well as the state unit leadership, they all are doing campaigning, and especially in the third phase area in Gwalior, Chambal region, especially Bhind, Morena, Gwalior. Dr. Mohan Yadav, today Dr. Mohan Yadav did a public rally in Guna. He had a campaigning for Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Tomorrow he will go to the Rajgarh. Shivraj Singh Chauhan also will participate in the public rallies tomorrow in Gwalior, Guna, Bhind, Morena. Mayawati also take a public rally tomorrow in Morena. So we can say all political parties are doing well for campaigning. Congress is also focusing on the Gwalior Chambal region. Jitu Patwari, he is the state president of Congress. Ex-union minister Arun Yadav is also will take a part in the public rallies in Gwalior Chambal region. So all political parties put efforts for third phase campaign.
And since you mentioned the other political parties as well, Aditya, talk to us a bit, if you will, about some of the other prominent leaders who are contesting in the third phase of election.
See, Ramesh, there are 9 seats where polling will be held in the third phase. But there are 3 seats that we can say are important seats. One is Vidisha. Shivraj Singh Chauhan is contesting in Vidisha. As we know that he was a 5-time member parliament from Vidisha. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Sushma Swaraj also was a member parliament from Vidisha. So Vidisha is also an important seat of Madhya Pradesh. If we talk about the Guna, Jyotiraditya Scindia, Union Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia are in a battle from Guna. As we know that last time Scindia lost this seat, but this time again Jyotiraditya Scindia are in battle from the Bharatiya Janata Party. Another one, if we talk about the Rajgarh, former Chief Minister, big Congress leader Digvijay Singh are in battle from Rajgarh. Digvijay Singh has a strong hold in Rajgarh seat. He also gave a strong fight to the Bharatiya Janata Party candidates. Bhopal seat, Bhopal seat is very important. Alok Sharma is a candidate of Bharatiya Janata Party. He was a mayor of Bhopal. He currently is a member MLA in Bhopal, one seat. So we can say these 4 seats are very important seats of Madhya Pradesh, where the polling will be held on third phase.
Right, Aditya, do stay on. Let me now go across to Jessica Taneja, who is standing by patiently in Goa. Jessica, what are some of the key concerns for the voters this time round in Goa?
Well, Rupesh, roughly 1.1 million voters in Goa will decide the fate of 2 Lok Sabha seats, one from South Goa and the other one from North Goa, as has been the case in the state for many years. This time around, both the BJP and the Congress, as it has been the contest between the two in these 2 have been appealing to voters on development issues, particularly the BJP. Yesterday also you heard the Prime Minister delivering a keynote address, delivering a key address, to the people of South Goa and bolstering support for the local candidate there, Pallavi Dempo. And Pallavi Dempo is the first female candidate that has been fielded for South Goa. So of course another push by the BJP to also tell the voters that they are focusing on women-led development. On the other hand, you have from the Congress Veriarto Fernandes, who has made allegations against the BJP-led centre, saying that making remarks, of course, to the extent that the constitution was forced on Goa post-liberation and integration, where the Prime Minister, you heard yesterday, had also similarly retorted on the issue, saying that this would be an insult to B.R. Ambedkar. All those issues set aside, Ramesh, it's important to also understand the demographic of Goa. While you talk about the native Goans who usually recognize through their mother tongue, which is Konkani, contribute at least 65%. Now that group, 65% of the population, now that group also includes the ones which also are recognized by their family deities or their patron saints. And their concerns, of course, also limited to the point of how environment issues need to be taken center stage. Of course, there is shelter security as well. The rest 35% of the population are the migrants that we have seen since 1971 in Goa. Those are the new Goans who have come and settled here. So their concerns, of course, also related to shelter security, and also rising price and cost of living has been one of the major concerns for voters. And of course, mining and other construction work that has irked some of the locals here, and they would want to see those issues addressed. But if you see the contest fair and square, it is between the BJP and the Congress. In the last election, South Goa went to the Congress. So this time the BJP has swelled up its campaign in the south. You heard the Prime Minister yesterday as well, and we've seen Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant also making quite a lot of visits to South Goa to cement support for the candidate there. Right. But on the broader concern of the voters is, of course, also joblessness among the youth, and of course working towards greater development without hurting the environment too much is what the Goans really want at this point, Ramesh.
Right, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. I will have to leave it at that. Aditya Srivastav in Madhya Pradesh and Jessica Taneja in Goa. Thank you, appreciate it. And still to come on DD India News Hour. US Secretary of State raises the issue of China's support to Russia's military in his talks in Beijing. The US says that Houthi missiles damage a British-owned ship in the Red Sea. And Russia explores ways to evade European Union sanctions on its energy exports.
The connection between the wellness of our planet and our own well-being is more direct than we tend to believe. Let's explore more ways of helping the nature and in turn helping ourselves.
So tigers are water babies. If the forest is degraded, you will not have perennial water bodies. As in, the streams will dry out and therefore you don't have tigers.
These are all valuable to our economy, but they aren't valued in our economy. Nature like this is being left out of the equation.
Litter on the street always infuriated Malarvari Muthu and her daughter-in-law Rajavalli Rajiv. They thought that people might not throw their garbage on the street if they could get money for it instead. And that's how the idea for the garbage bank was born.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken raised concerns on Friday about China's support for Russia's military. It was one of the many issues threatening to sour the recent improvement in relations between the world's two biggest economies. Blinken raised the matter during 5.5 hours of talks with China's top diplomat Wang Yi in Beijing. The visit produced little progress on contentious issues such as US complaints about cheap Chinese exports or tensions over Taiwan and the South China Sea.
I reiterated our serious concern about the PRC providing components that are powering Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. China is the top supplier of machine tools, microelectronics, nitrocellulose, which is critical to making munitions and rocket propellants, and other dual-use items that Moscow is using to ramp up its defense industrial base. A defense industrial base that is churning out rockets, drones, tanks, and other weapons that President Putin is using to invade a sovereign country, to demolish its power grid and other civilian infrastructure, to kill innocent children, women, and men.
Now, both Ukraine and Russia claim to have attacked each other's energy infrastructure. Also, 2 hospitals in Kyiv were evacuated after attacks in other parts of Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia is exploring ways to evade the European Union's sanctions on its energy exports. Syed Absarul Hassan reports.
Ukraine has claimed that Russia attacked its energy facilities in 3 regions on Saturday. The attack damaged equipment and injured at least 1 worker. Kyiv also claimed that a missile attack by Russia near a hospital in Kharkiv region on Saturday injured 1 person. Though the missile did not hit the hospital block, it created a large crater in the ground. In the meantime, Kyiv evacuated 2 civilian hospitals after the head of the Belarusian KGB security service said they were housing soldiers, sparking fears of an air strike. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg called on allies to follow Germany's example and increase their aid to Ukraine during a visit to Germany on Friday.
Germany is the biggest European contributor of military aid to Ukraine. You just decided to send a 3rd Patriot system to Ukraine, and I strongly believe that other allies should follow the example of Germany.
Meanwhile, Russia is looking for ways to overcome what it regards as any illegal sanctions that the European Union imposes on its liquefied natural gas operations. The European Commission's next sanctions package is expected to propose restrictions on Russian liquefied natural gas for the first time, including a ban on the transshipments in EU and measures on 3 Russian LNG projects. Syed Absarul Hassan for TT India.
And joining me from Moscow is my colleague Dasha Chernyshyova. Dasha, what's the latest you can share with us on the hostilities between Russia and Ukraine?
Well, we've heard the Russian Ministry of Defense confirming that over the past week, the Russian armed forces have carried out 35 group strikes, including with the use of the hypersonic Kinzhal missiles against the energy facilities of Ukraine. Now, Moscow confirms those are in retaliation against the Ukrainian strikes against the energy facility of Russia. Moscow is also targeting the Ukrainian military-industrial complex, aiming to destroy the places where the Western ammunition is stored, the fuel warehouses, as well as the places where the weapons and ammunition are being repaired. Moscow insists it is not targeting the civilian targets in Ukraine, while only aiming to destroy the military-industrial complex. In the meantime, we are seeing strikes by the Ukrainian armed forces carried out against the civilian targets in Russia. Those are in the Belgorod region, for instance, where at least 5 people have been injured as a result of the drone attack in the city. That's according to the local governor. So certainly at the moment we understand the sides are relying heavily on their military might in this conflict, while the prospect of negotiations, even though it is being more often discussed in the public sphere, is still very far away, with the Kremlin on Saturday saying that there are no prerequisites at the moment for the negotiated solution.
Dasha, now as we saw in that report by Syed Absarul Hassan, Russia is reported to be exploring ways to evade the European Union's sanctions on its energy exports. Now, who or what might these sanctions target, and what does Russia really fear?
Well, at the moment, we understand the EU diplomats are about to discuss the possibility of targeting Russian LNG exports, and that will be part of the 14th package of the European Union's sanctions against Moscow. Now, Moscow calls to those sanctions illegitimate and illegal restrictions that Moscow is indeed will be trying to evade. But before commenting on them, the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that the concrete steps have to be announced. Now, what we are getting from the media reports is suggesting that the new measures could include restrictions on the Russian LNG projects, as well as on the re-export of the Russian LNG from the EU ports. That means that even though the European Union itself is consuming about 5% of its energy from Russian LNG and pays about 8 billion euro to Russia a year, they will not be targeting the purchase of the Russian LNG per se. Instead, they will be tackling the cargoes that arrive at the European ports, only to be sent elsewhere. Now, obviously, Moscow is saying that the sanctions in general is a double-edged sword, which will be hurting not just the Russian economy, but the European countries themselves, with the experts now saying that obviously, if introduced, these measures will lead to the growth in prices on the energy market, while for the Russian Federation, Moscow says they have learned to manage those sanctions. Keep in mind, Russia is the most sanctioned country in the world, and the Russian President Vladimir Putin held an economic meeting on Saturday with his ministers, saying that the GDP growth in 2024 could exceed 3%.
Dasha, thank you. That was Dasha Chernyshova reporting from Moscow. Right, moving on, in some other news, amidst the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict in West Asia, Hamas has said that it had received Israel's official response to its proposition on a hostage deal. It follows discussions with an Egyptian delegation aimed at restarting the peace talks. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to hold Gaza talks in Saudi Arabia this week with officials from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman and Bahrain. Meanwhile, aid was airdropped in Gaza. Rabindra Chauhan has more.
As the Israel-Hamas conflict continues in West Asia, Hamas said it will study the new proposal for a hostage deal officially forwarded by Israel. The development comes following a visit by an Egyptian delegation to Israel on Friday. The delegation engaged in discussions with Israeli officials aiming to find a pathway to restart talks and bring an end to the conflict that has gripped the region.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is going to hold Gaza talks in Riyadh this week with officials from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman and Bahrain. The talks aimed at pushing for reconciliation and peace in Gaza to be held on the sidelines of a World Economic Forum meeting. On the other hand, despite the challenges, efforts to provide aid to those in need to continue amid the prolonged crisis. Airdrops of aid landed in Gaza on Saturday, while a blast and smoke were seen near its border with Israel. With Bureau Inputs, Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
And in some more news from West Asia, the U.S. military said on Friday that Iran-backed Houthis launched 3 anti-ship ballistic missiles into the Red Sea from Yemen, causing minor damage to one ship, the UK-owned MV Andromeda Star. The U.S. Central Command said on the social media app X that a missile landed in the vicinity of a second vessel, the MV Maisha, but it was not damaged. Yemen's Houthis confirmed that their missiles hit the Andromeda Star oil tanker in the Red Sea. Their spokesperson said that the Panama flagship was British-owned, but shipping data shows that it was recently sold. Its current owner is registered in Seychelles. The tanker is engaged in Russia-linked trade, and it was en route from Primorsk in Russia to Vadinar in India. Now, the Houthis have launched a number of drone and missile strikes in the Red Sea, the Bab al-Mandab Strait and the Gulf of Aden since November last year, forcing companies to reroute cargo to longer and more expensive journeys around southern Africa. The attack on the Andromeda Star comes after a brief pause in the Houthis' campaign that targets ships with ties to Israel, the United States and the United Kingdom. And staying in the region, Iran's Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian has said that the crew of a seized Portuguese flag ship linked to Israel have been granted consular access and are expected to be freed. Iran seized the container vessel MSC Aries with a crew of 25 in the Strait of Hormuz on the 13th of April, just days after Tehran vowed to retaliate against a suspected Israeli strike on its consulate in Damascus. Iran had said that it could close the crucial shipping route. According to Iranian media, the country's foreign minister spoke to his Portuguese counterpart about the matter. Iran's foreign ministry said that the ship was seized for violating maritime laws and that there was no doubt that it was indeed linked to Israel. Now, recent attacks on merchant shipping in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden by Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis have affected global shipping. All right, now take a look at what else is making news around the world. In the United States, a violent tornado slammed Nebraska on Friday evening, causing severe damage in Omaha City. Hundreds of homes and other structures were damaged as the tornado tore for miles along farmland and into subdivisions. The Epley Airfield, also known as Omaha Airport, was closed upon touchdown of the tornado. A zoo in northern France welcomed 2 Sumatran tiger cubs, a big plus for the conservation of the endangered species. Veterinarian of Amiens Metropolis Zoo said that fewer than 400 individual Sumatran tigers remain in the wild today. The IUCN Red List categorizes Sumatran tiger as a critically endangered species. Around 125 captive Sumatran tigers exist around the zoos in Europe. A 100-meter tall Godzilla was projected onto the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building on Saturday. The display marks the 70th anniversary since the birth of the fictional monster, who is also a tourism ambassador to Shinjuku Ward in Tokyo. The Macau Grand Prix Museum has opened an exhibition on Lego speed racing in Hong Kong on Friday. Presentation of Formula 3 racing car, a full-scale model based on the original cars made entirely of Lego pieces, was the main attraction at the event. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Was US Secretary of State's visit to China a success? An expert weighs in. South Africa celebrates the 30th anniversary of its Freedom Day. And heavy rains and floods claim at least 70 lives in Kenya.
Team Pole Pulse has reached Guwahati. Welcome to the gateway to northeast of India. Guwahati is one of the fastest growing and one of the largest cities, port riverine city on the southernmost banks of mighty Brahmaputra River.
एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन का कुछ काम हो, स्किल डेवलपमेंट हो, वो सब मुद्दे देख के ही हम लोग वोट करते हैं.
अभी जब जो डेवलप दिखा रहा है तो हमको तो उसी को सुनोगे.
In Assam and Northeast, the people are not very much interested in the political issues.
The youth bulge of Northeast is concerned, or youth electorate of Northeast is concerned.
It's our right to vote and we need to vote for a change.
डेवलपमेंट के लिए तो वोट देना जरूरी है सबको.
असम बदल गया है, असम बदल रहा है.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. India election campaign peaks as Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds rallies in Maharashtra and Goa. Mallikarjun Kharge and Priyanka Gandhi of the Congress Party campaign in Assam and Gujarat. Israel responds to Hamas's ceasefire proposal, and Egyptian delegation visits Israel for talks on hostage release. Gaza aid from Cyprus resumes. And Iran to release crew of ship linked to Israel. 16 Indian nationals remain on board the ship that was seized in the Strait of Hormuz on 13th April. Right, going back to the top story, we take a deep dive into U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's just concluded visit to China, its impact on the U.S.-China ties, and what it means for the world at large. Professor Swaran Singh joins us. Professor Singh teaches at the School of International Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Professor Singh, welcome to DD India News Hub. Now, first, straight off the bat, was Blinken's visit to China a success or not? Do you think he achieved some or all of the objectives that he had set out for himself on this visit?
Ramesh, given the level of complexities and the tenor of tensions between US and China for almost now 8 years, it's difficult to describe this visit as a success. At best, it is a mixed bag of certain new openings being made and certain contentions at least being shared in public. Both sides underlining the need to sustain communications so that they do not end up having any misperceptions, miscalculations, as was underlined, especially in the meeting between Antony Blinken and President Xi Jinping. I think the particular drivers for this revival of contacts, particularly from US side, is that in middle of now presidential elections, US sees that they perhaps need China's support in putting certain restraint on Russia, because China is a major support base for Russia in terms of supplies. And of course, also more recently, putting certain restraint through Beijing on Iran, if possible, so that the Middle East doesn't really get out of control. So these are immediate, I think, triggers which made Antony Blinken make its second visit. At least these issues was shared, and some other issues where US has traditionally had contentions with China were also shared. So it's a mixed bag, I think, but it's a good news that their interactions are being revived now rather than both sides really avoiding each other.
Fair enough. Mixed bag, says Professor Singh. Professor Singh, you referred to the contentious issues in US-China ties, so I have to ask you a follow-up question. Now, Blinken's visit produced little progress on contentious issues such as tensions over Taiwan and the South China Sea. So, if differences persist, how might that affect the region, India included?
I think definitely India is keeping a very close eye on what kind of rapprochement or what kind of interactions are happening between US and China. Because both United States and China are very important for India's foreign policy. India's whole transformation of relationship with the United States, India's continuing border tensions with China, make it significant to see whether they're coming closer in any of the issues could shrink India's leverages in dealing with both of these number one and number two economies, particularly when India is growing as the third largest economy in the making. So India definitely has a very keen eye on what is happening there. And we saw in the end, and it is a usual thing for US, high-level visits, that in the end, the last interaction is usually a news conference where they, openly speak about their contentions. And the same thing was underlined that ironclad support to Manila, the issues of human rights in Taiwan, issues of Tibet, and all kinds of other contentious issues were underlined in the end of the meeting, end of the visit. But particularly the meeting with Xi Jinping had all the pleasantries, though it began with the meeting with Wang Yi, where Wang Yi was fairly tough in terms of talking to the United States. So it's a whole settled pattern of where you begin talking tough and go and in the end talk about your contentions,
right?
So that you can go home saying that I did put my point across.
Now, we spoke about the Indo-Pacific, Professor Singh. Let me also now ask you for your opinion on Russia, since you referred to it in your opening remarks. Now, it's been reported by the Western media at least that Blinken voiced his concern about China's support to Russia's military. But some would say that the US has itself to blame for pushing Russia into a tighter embrace with China. How do you look at it?
I think there is absolutely no doubt that the whole effort in isolating Russia, as President Biden said, had brought together a coalition of 50 countries, did make Russia far more dependent on China or increase China's leverages vis-a-vis President Putin. But this whole contention of United States of China providing material support to the military prowess of Russia is perhaps little far-fetched, needs to be established as to how materially China is supporting Russian military. Of course, economically, China is the biggest trading partner, buyer of energy from Russia. So in that sense, I think if United States has to be any more effective in cutting down on Russia's capabilities, China is the key in that sense. And I don't think China will easily make any concessions to United States on that turf.
Let's talk a bit, if you will, Professor Singh, about the political economy. How do you think trade talks between the world's top two economies will affect the rest of the world? Now, already we are told that not much headway was made on the issue of the US complaints about, for instance, cheap Chinese exports. Also, Blinken's visit to China coincided with Biden signing a bill to ban TikTok in the US.
I think it's a story that goes back to decades. First, vis-a-vis US concerns about rise of Japan as a big economy. More recently, in the last couple of decades, US concerns about rise of Chinese economy, and the whole effort of ensuring that China doesn't really become even stronger compared to United States. And more recently, other than the trade and the tariff wars, we have seen whole clamping down on advanced technologies, particularly chips, semiconductors regulations. Last year saw a very unusual sort of effort on United States to not just deny their own citizens, but deny even the aliens or any residents living in the United States to have anything to do with China when it comes to semiconductors, and the whole list of Chinese companies being blacklisted. So this is an effort to make sure China doesn't outgrow, in that sense, in terms of global leadership, at least to begin with economic prowess. And one after another, American documents have put it on record that they now believe that at least in Asia-Pacific or Indo-Pacific, Chinese not only have intentions, but today have capability to replace United States, and that's a serious concern for them. But I seriously believe that all these efforts to, sort of have a sledgehammer approach to deny advanced technologies to China will only delay China's rise by maybe 4 to 5 years. Ultimately, they will find other routes or other ways of overcoming these limitations. And China is a big economy today, and I think more balanced relationship between the two is how I expect it should grow. And China is definitely wanted to grow in terms of more partnership and least damaging to each other in that sense. That is again something that President Xi Jinping underlined in his discussion today, that they should make sure that they do not turn into adversaries of each other in coming times.
True. And finally, Professor Singh, do you think India would be watching these developments very, very closely? What's in it for India, really?
I think so many times it has happened in history that whenever US and China came rather close, and I remember long back when India had tested nuclear weapons and President Clinton had visited Beijing, there was this whole joint statement of saying that they will together work to manage stability and peace in South Asia. Similarly,
there was talk of G2 as well, Professor Singh.
Yeah, indeed, Ramesh. And reverse is also true. When President Obama came and joint statement said that India and the United States will work together to ensure stability in South China Sea.
Right.
So fundamentally, when US comes closer to India, Chinese get very worried, and obviously India keeps an eye if United States is anywhere going closer to Beijing. So in that sense, right now, I think repeatedly everyone is saying, after the November last year visit to San Francisco and meeting of two national leaders, Xi Jinping and Joe Biden, relations are at least stabilized, but there are enormous contentions and tensions, and India doesn't have to worry much about China having any leverages over India's very close relationship with the United States.
All right, we leave it at that. Professor Singh, thank you once again for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Right, coming back to our top focus on the hustle and bustle of the poll campaign in India, the country's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be on a two-day visit to Karnataka starting on the 28th of April, where his main focus will be on the northern part of the state. Elections will take place there on the 7th of May. Now, North Karnataka region is considered to be a bastion of the BJP, and Prime Minister Modi's visit there will strengthen the party's position. He'll address 6 rallies across 14 parliamentary seats in the region. BJP's senior leader Murugesh Nirani, former Industries Minister of Karnataka, spoke to DD India's correspondent on Prime Minister's rallies in North Karnataka and why Davangere is important. Take a listen.
This is the phase wherein North Karnataka, several regions which are seen as underdeveloped are going to polls. Now, is that how is the BJP going to talk about this, and how is the BJP going to ask votes in this region?
Okay. First phase out of 28-14 parliamentary election is over. Second phase is also 14. May 7th is election is conducting. Overall Karnataka out of 28. Now our aim is to win out of 28. Because of the Modi ji, everybody is voting for BJP. Now I am very confident, including the Davangere. It is very easy to handle the situation in Davangere. I hope they are the experienced person. They are very happy, and all the Davangere peoples are blessings of the Gayatri Siddheshwar ji.
What do you think is Modi bringing in, to the people of North Karnataka?
Now, whatever the Honorable Prime Minister is, he came the election canvas for last time also, this time also. Yeah. The same times, same schedule was there in the 2019. Now it is a 2024 also, same schedule they are going for the North Karnataka and Middle Karnataka and everywhere.
All right, now take a look at what else is making news around the world. The Central Bureau of Investigation team interacted with the locals in Sandeshkhali regarding the land grabbing case in West Bengal. The CBI had earlier asked people to file their complaints about the land grabbing via email. Now the CBI is interacting with the complainants. India's investigating agency, the National Investigation Agency, filed a charge sheet before the court for NIA cases at Poonamali in Chennai against one more accused in the 2022 ISIS-inspired Coimbatore car bomb blast case. So far, 14 people have been arrested in connection with the car bomb blast incident. Lahaul and Spiti in India's Himachal Pradesh blanketed in snow after receiving fresh snowfall. The recent snowfall has added another layer of magic to this enchanting destination, reaffirming its status as a must-visit destination for nature lovers and adventure seekers alike. The Indian government has allowed exports of 99,150 metric tons of onion to 6 neighboring countries of Bangladesh, the UAE, Bhutan, Bahrain, Mauritius and Sri Lanka. Onion export prohibition has been imposed to ensure adequate domestic availability against the backdrop of estimated lower Kharif and Rabi crops in 2023-24. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India wins 4 gold medals at the Archery World Cup in Shanghai. India's rising chess star D. Gukesh speaks to DD India after winning the 2024 Candidates Chess Tournament. And a special report on the war cemetery in India's northeastern state of Nagaland. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. To sports news now. South Africa remembers its first democratic election in 1994, which marked the official end of racial segregation and apartheid as it celebrates its 30th Freedom Day on Saturday. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the celebrations at Union Building in Pretoria and said, "We gather as a united people of all races at the same Union Building that once symbolized our pain and oppression."
The weight of centuries of oppression was no longer holding us down. Even though our backs bore scars of the cruel lashes of those who had whipped and subjected us for more than 300 years, on that day, as a united people, we stood tall as South Africans. Today, 30 years later, we gather as a united people of all races at the same union buildings that once symbolized our pain and our oppression.
And joining me from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania is Isaac Lukando. Isaac, good to see you. What more can you tell us about the celebrations in Pretoria and elsewhere in South Africa as the country celebrates Freedom Day?
Well, Freedom Day in South Africa is a public holiday, so essentially most South Africans, apart from the fact that it's a Saturday, will be at home. Most of the activity will be at national level, and as you've seen, President Cyril Ramaphosa had a keynote address to the nation, telling the nation where the nation is, how far it has come in the past 30 years. But there's also another side to this. There's a generation of young South Africans that didn't actually see what happened in 1994, didn't get to vote then, they were not even born. About 22 million of them are under the age of 19. So about half of the population of South Africa's 60 million people are young. And so most of them don't have a good idea of what really happened in 1994, and so for most of them it's just another day to stay at home and do whatever it is that they would like to engage in. But overall, for the people that were there in 1994, it's a day of reflection, it's a day of festivity, celebrating freedom and democracy.
Since you referred to the year 1994, Isaac, could you also talk a bit, if you will, for the benefit of our viewers joining us from around the world, about the historical significance of the day itself, how it came about, and its lasting legacy insofar as the end of racial segregation and apartheid are concerned?
Well, this particular day, 27th of April 1994, was very significant. On this particular day, South Africa got a new constitution. This constitution came about because of negotiations that had taken a while. A very violent past had brought this moment to pass, and it afforded many South Africans that were marginalized, particularly the black community and other racial groupings, the opportunity to vote. So people in that particular year got to vote for the very first time. So contrast this with 1989, where 3 million predominantly whites got a chance to vote in the general elections then. But in 1994, 20 million people of all colors got a chance to express their opinion in terms of who they wanted, and who they wanted in that particular year was Nelson Mandela. And it's also very significant because it affords the country, this particular day, a chance to reflect on how far the country has come, how much it has achieved, and the challenges ahead. And you saw this today in Cyril Ramaphosa's speech, saying that the country does have some challenges in terms of the unemployment rate, challenges with electricity supply, and things of that nature. But he contended that these challenges are not insurmountable. So obviously a day of reflection for South Africans, where they've come from, where they are, and where they're going.
Indeed. We leave it at that. Isaac Lukando in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. Thank you. Appreciate it. In some more news, heavy rains and floods have killed at least 70 people since mid-March in Kenya. Now, Kenya and other countries in Eastern Africa, a region highly vulnerable to climate change, have been lashed by a severe downpour in recent weeks. More than 100,000 people have been displaced. At least 64 public schools in the country's capital have had to shut down. Roads and bridges have been damaged. Kenyans have been warned to stay alert with more heavy rains forecast in the coming days as the monsoon batters Eastern Africa. Other countries in Eastern Africa have reported flooding, with 155 people reported to have died in the neighboring Tanzania and more than 200,000 people affected in Burundi. Closer home, an intense heat wave in Bangladesh has claimed at least 12 lives. Hospitals are struggling to accommodate an influx of heat stroke patients. Respite from the prevailing heat wave condition across Bangladesh is not likely. In fact, the situation has worsened in Rajshahi, Chuadanga and Pobna districts, according to a bulletin put out by Bangladesh Meteorological Department on Saturday. And India's Meteorological Department has predicted a heat wave over eastern and southern peninsular areas of the country till 30th of April. Heat wave is likely to prevail in many places over the Gangetic West Bengal, parts of Odisha and pockets of sub-Himalayan West Bengal. The Weather Department issued a heat wave alert for Thane and Raigad districts of Maharashtra and parts of Mumbai till 29th April. Meanwhile, India's capital, New Delhi, is expected to receive light rain with thunder showers on Saturday, accompanied by gusty winds. The war cemetery in Nagaland's capital, Kohima, in India's northeast, is a solemn tribute to the brave souls who perished in a fierce battle against Japanese invasion. The cemetery is located where the Japanese advance was halted. It's maintained by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. Tapas Bhattacharya reports.
Welcome to Kohima, a place of profound history and remembrance. Today, we give you a tour of Kohima War Cemetery, which is a memorial dedicated to soldiers who died in the Second World War at Kohima. Amidst the tranquil beauty of Kohima lies a solemn tribute to the brave souls who made the ultimate sacrifice during the Second World War. Established in April 1944, this war cemetery stands as a testament to the valor and the sacrifice of the 2nd British Division of the Allied Forces. Popularly remembered as the Stalingrad of the East, the Battle of Kohima was fought from April 4th to June 22nd in 1944. With 1,421 graves, each one a reminder of the life lost in the fight for freedom. Perched atop the Garrison Hill, the cemetery offers a breathtaking panorama of Kohima, a serene resting place for the heroes. 917 Hindus and 6 soldiers were also cremated according to their faith, their bravery forever etched in the history. A visit to the sacred ground is a journey through time, leaving visitors captivated by the courageous tales of those who lie here. In Kohima, amidst the picturesque surroundings, the spirits of heroes live on, their sacrifice a beacon of hope for generations to come. With camperson Arvind, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for GD India from Kohima, Nagaland.
All right, let me now get you news from the world of sport. D. Gukesh is the youngest winner of the prestigious Candidates Tournament and the second Indian after Vishwanathan Anand to do so. Next, he will face Ding Liren at the World Chess Championship. In an exclusive interview with DD India Suchitra, Gukesh said that he was confident of his victory. Take a listen.
What were your realistic expectations when you were leaving for this tournament?
It's been a nice experience, and yeah, the expectations were quite high. Just the first place mattered to me in this tournament, and that's what I've been aiming for since the time I qualified.
When did you feel that you can actually win this tournament?
I would say I started quite well, and I felt in general quite about my shape. But really, the moment where I felt I could do it was on the rest day after the 7th round loss against Ali Reza, because I felt so much motivation and so much energy.
The last round, What were your feelings? What were you going through?
After I finished the last round, I was following the other game, and it was super stressful for me and my entire team. Me and my coach Gayaski were watching the game live, and at some point we couldn't watch anymore, so we closed the laptop and went for a walk. After the result came, my father came and told me.
So when you entered that last round, the 14th round, what was your strategy?
There was no need to panic. I just wanted to play a normal game. I wanted to play solidly, and Nakamura, he had to really press, and if he overextends, I'll take the chance and win outright. But I got some chances in the game, but it involves taking some risk, and I was not really ready for it. So I decided to play it safe.
So what is going to be the most challenging thing when you face Liren?
Yeah, surely it's a strong player. I'm really excited to play the World Championship. And the biggest challenge would be how I approach the match and what kind of state I will be in. Obviously, I have a brief idea of what I'm going to do and what kind of shape I want to be in. Achieving that status.
India is in the race to host that World Championship match. What is your take on that?
It would be very nice. I don't know many of the details yet. It's still a bit early. But playing at home is always special. And if it happens, it would be nice. But in general, I'm happy to play anywhere in the world.
What kind of guidance, advice you are getting from Vishwanathan Anand? Because he is the most experienced person around you.
Of course, he's been a huge inspiration from the start. He has not only been an inspiration, a role model, but also a mentor. He has taken upon himself to develop the next generation of Indian chess. Without him, none of this would be possible.
Thank you so much for talking to us, and we wish you all the best. What were your realistic...
In some more sporting news, Indian athletes claimed 4 gold medals at the Archery World Cup in Shanghai on Saturday. The women's team led the charge as the trio of Jyothi Surekha Vennam, Aditi Swami and Parneet Kaur got the better of Italy's players by 236 to 225. On the other hand, Abhishek Varma, Priyansh and Prathamesh Fuge produced a similar display of dominance against the Netherlands and came out victorious by 238 to 231. The Indian men's team dropped just 2 points. India added a third goal to its kitty as the pair of Jyothi Surekha Vennam and Abhishek Varma won the compound mixed team gold final by beating Estonia 158 to 157. Now, Jyothi Surekha secured a 4th goal for India when she defeated the Mexican archer to win the individual compound final, while Priyansh won silver after he lost to Austria's player in the individual compound final. To cricket now, in the Indian Premier League, Tilak Varma's efforts went in vain as Delhi Capitals edged out Mumbai Indians by 10 runs on Saturday in New Delhi. Mumbai Indians were restricted to 247 for 9 while chasing 258 for victory. The visitors got off to a shaky start as they scored more than 60 runs in the power play, but lost Rohit Sharma, Ishan Kishan and Surya Kumar Yadav in that period. Mumbai Indians' fight really started with Hardik Pandya scoring 46 of 24 balls. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Up. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download it now. All right, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. To all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
बहाना नंबर 11 नींद पूरी करने का डे। बहाना नंबर 28 ट्रिप पर जाने का डे। 39 बिंज वॉच ऑल सीजन्स। 65 घर की सफाई का डे। 1 वोट ना डालने से क्या होगा? और सबसे बड़ा बहाना, isn't it a holiday today? Holiday? 101 बहाने हैं वोट ना डालने के, पर इस चुनाव के पर्व में एक ही रीजन काफी है वोट डालने का, वो है हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी देश और हमारे फ्यूचर के लिए। तो चलो सब मिलकर मनाते हैं इस चुनाव के पर्व को गर्व के साथ।